isn't it?
It is. I think you caught us talking. Hi, I'm Tony Kent, and this is another episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines. And today, putting herself in line for what will be a wholly ineffective and far too gentle cross-examination is the author JO JAKEMAN. Jo released her first thriller, Sticks and Stones, in 2018. Fast followed up by Safe House in 2019 in hardback, and Safe House is coming out in paperback. I think it should have already been out, Jo. I think that's right, isn't it? But because we're not allowed out, it wasn't allowed out. But it's coming out soon and can be pre-ordered now. Jo, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you enjoying not being able to go out, since that's what we were just mentioning?
I'm loving it, to be honest.
It's right up your street.
Oh, it's perfect. I don't need to do the school run. I don't have to, talk to the neighbours. It's pretty good, actually. Yeah. I mean, obviously, as writers, we stay in quite a bit anyway, don't we? So there's no change there. And I'm starting to miss things, but yeah, for the first few weeks, I was like, this is heaven.
I think you're the first person to say that. I've had a lot of people mention that for writers it's not that unusual, but I think you're the first person to have enjoyed it quite that much.
My anxiety levels went I've been chilled out. I mean, that may also be because I've taken to daytime drinking though.
Ah, right. Well, it's a great excuse, isn't it? The sun's out. We're not allowed out. There's no licensing hours at them.
Yeah, not
at
right
the moment.
Kids, so glass of wine done. I might
So you're living. You've got your husband and your two twin sons, 12 years old, right? Are they making it difficult? Is having extra people in the house making it more difficult to write?
Oh yeah, productivity's gone down a little bit, but my boys are really into their books, so they've been doing a lot of writing. So we have a writing hour, so I can get some writing done, and they write really grim. Right. Really, I mean, a lot worse than anything I'd write in terms of people being ripped limb from limb and devoured by dragons and what have you.
Yeah. So they're writing horrors and Game of Thrones.
And then, of course, they get so proud. So every 15 minutes, it's like, "Mummy, let me read you what I've written." So very little done at all.
Well, yeah, J.R.R. Martin's earned a bloody fortune, so yeah, they're probably on the right path, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about your books. Let's talk about the first one, Sticks and Stones. That came out 2018, which is the same year. I think we must have come out together. I had Killer Intent the same year you had that. I think we were both nominated in Goodreads, weren't we?
We were.
Goodreads for Best Revenge. Did you win that?
No, I didn't.
Who won it? Who won it so we could both hate them?
Yeah. What was it? It's called Something Wife, My Perfect Wife or something. It's being made into and everything. So I'm okay, all right then.
Let's doubly hate them.
Yeah.
We're stuck on YouTube. Right? So tell me about Sticks and Stones. What was Sticks and Stones about?
So it's a psychological thriller, as you mentioned. It was about coercive control. I was writing it around about the time that the law changed to make it against the law for the coercive control. And so very much about domestic abuse rather than domestic violence.
Yes.
So it's about three women who all share the same abusive ex, and they turn on him and lock him in the cellar. That's the quick blurb on it. But yeah, it's mostly about coercive control and how very charming men. A lot of the domestic abuse cases you see, the men can be charming, they're handsome, they're great to the rest of the world. And my antagonist, Philip Rochester, was in the book. He's a policeman as well, so it's a layer of somebody you should be able to trust and has all that control. So yeah, that was my first book. That was
your first book, and then that was followed up last year, but by your book that's now coming out in paperback. So the paperback's been delayed, as we said, but out last year.
It's out in hardback and ebook, and that one. Based in Cornwall. Again, this one's about a woman just out of prison.
A safe house. Sorry, I should have said that. Safe house. Yes.
Safe house, and she's just come out of prison for providing a false alibi for her partner who went on to kill somebody. So, So
they give you a lot of time for that.
And she thought he was innocent and blah blah blah. So again, we've got the coercive control element of it. And but somebody knows who she is, even though she's got a new identity and she's moved to a remote place in Cornwall. It's the wrong thing to do, isn't it? A remote place, really.
You think it's a good idea? Have they never watched the Sleeping with the Enemy film?
You go to a big city.
Yeah, don't go somewhere where the sea is outside and it's crashing waves.
Yeah. So somebody knows who she is and feels that she hasn't paid the price. So it was partly inspired by. Do you remember the Sower murders? Maxine Carr.
Yeah.
Ian Huntley, and she's been given a new identity and things. But every now and again, you'll still see a newspaper article, and people are so horrified that she gets her life and she's got remarried and she's had a child, and and people still have a lot of anger. So there's a lot about have people serve their time? Can you forgive them? Can you move on from that? You're always tainted by the thing that you did.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of exploring that.
That's very, very interesting. I was sort of on the periphery of that case when it occurred. Members of my chambers were involved in the case. My pupil master and I were involved in defending one of the police officers who had some trouble arising from the case. So I remember that case very well. It's a horrible one, isn't it? I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, you've got a whole book out of it. That's really interesting that's what that's about. Because when you think about her in particular, you've got a lot of different, the whole sort of new identity thing. You have that for John Venables, don't you, from the horrible Jamie Bulger case, and you have that for various others. But to have that in her case, it's a much less cut and dried case, isn't it? She's not the bad guy. She's not the evil murderer.
The girls.
Yeah.
She wasn't even in the city at the time, was she?
Yeah.
She elsewhere, but the fact implicit and turned into a real figure of hate.
Yeah.
There were some blurry areas there, weren't there?
Yeah, it's not in any way. So I hope no one watching this would think, anyway, underplaying what she did. What she did was wrong and criminal and stupid and everything. But there's a lot to be said about why she did that. I mean, she was very, very badly manipulated by the person who she was with, Ian Huntley, and she's also she's going to have to suffer with that for the rest of her life, as you say. That's a serious smear, isn't it?
It is, and she's part of her the new identity, I believe, as well, is never letting her child know who she really was.
God,
so how
incredible!
When you're looking into your family history, as you kind of do, growing up when you get to a certain person, and who keeping something that's such a big part of you from your family, and and how that's. And knowing that nobody's going to call you by the name your mother chose for you again.
Yeah.
I could write books and books on that kind of stuff.
It's a fascinating subject, and as I say, there's two sides to it. It's very, people can jump if you show any kind of sympathy, then a lot of people can jump on that and think, you're being too liberal and you're a bleeding heart. But the reality is there are two sides to it. I often say when I mitigate for a sentence, when somebody has been found guilty or pleaded guilty, I stand up and have to speak about it. And it's a term I often use whenever I'm doing that, is what I'm telling you is not an excuse, but it is an explanation. And they are two different things. Explaining something is not excusing it, but it is saying there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I now really want to go and put my order in for the book. Incidentally, Safe House is available for pre-order in paperback. So I'm going to put my pre-order for paperback in, and everyone else should do the same. So what are you working on now during your writing hour with the kids?
Well, after Safe House, I've got another one that's I'm just waiting for my line edit, but my editor's been furloughed. So
oh right, okay.
So that one's called Who Killed Oscar Lomas?
Right.
That one's
go on. Who killed him? I thought I'd catch you out
then. Or is it? So a man who throws himself off a notorious suicide spot, leaves a suicide note, has money problems, has been caught out having an affair, has every reason to end his life. But he also has a few people who they've benefited from him being dead, and his wife refused to believe that he would kill himself. So it's a bit of an exploration around the stigma around suicide, and kind of for that as well, and how we're not meant to say committed suicide anymore, because that almost sounds like a criminal act. And so yeah, so it's about suicide or not.
So that's interesting. And is there a book 4 on the go?
There is, yeah.
You haven't got to tell us about it.
Book 4 is it's at that stage where it keeps changing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who done it yet.
But that's the wonderful thing about books, isn't it? And yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it's something that people might be interested in hearing. It's right that there's certain kinds of writers. There are certain kind of writers who will map everything out, and there'll be sketches and spider charts and post-it notes everywhere. And then there are other writers who have got a vague idea about how it begins and a vague idea about what might happen. Yeah. But the reality is that quite often you don't really know where you're going. And is that the kind of writer you are?
It is. I figured that I signposted it too much. My second book, I tried planning it all out. And it was really obvious, like, who was stalking her, because I knew writing it. So it took me a lot longer to write book 2, because I was having to go back and put the red herrings in, directions. Whereas with Who Killed Oscar Lomas, I didn't know who killed him. So I
hope you know now.
I know now. I definitely know. And then with this book, the one that I'm working on now, you know how it is, you kind of, something will happen and you'll be inspired by it, maybe a good reason or a bad, but my kids are changing school, and they have been at a fabulous school, a fee-paying school, but in senior school it's just not suited them at all, so we're all good. And so now I'm free from the private school. I can start writing about all the cliques and the backstabbing and the and so this one is about the murder of a headmaster at an elite boys' school, and a couple of women who confessed to the murder even though they didn't do it. So it's about why would they confess? Yeah.
You cover some really interesting subjects, don't you? I mean, a lot of the stuff you cover are things that I've encountered professionally in my day job, and I've never thought about writing about any of them. It's sort of they passed me by, but you've sort of clicked on coercive control, and then the sort of Maxine Carr type thing, and then that, and suicide, when suicide isn't suicide. They're all the stigma of suicide. That's, if you don't mind me saying, I'm very interested in your ability to sort of hone in on a point like that and make something of it.
It's far more interesting if it's something that you've been toying with just personally, isn't it? When you think it comes a lot easier if it's something that you've been reading articles about and you go, I want to see how that might go. And so my latest thing is, because I've been going around a lot of private schools looking for schools for the boys, and then going, kind of money for this. The amount of school projects that my kids have had to do, and then we've gone and looked at them in the hall, and you're going, there's no way an 8-year-old did that. No chance. All it is, this is a competition for parents. Let's just fight it out to the death and just be done with it.
But everything is, though, isn't it? I mean, it's the whole thing about being a parent. My son's 2. I grew up obsessed with rugby and boxing, and for his first Christmas, when he was only 6 months old, he was in an England kit with his first rugby ball. He's already got his own punch bag, his own gloves with his name on them. So, I mean, and that's not for him. That's just so that I can see him throw a good right hand and video it and put it on Instagram.
It's going to be brilliant. Now, our boys started playing rugby at 3 years old, so
perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. They play with foam balls to start off with.
And it's great for them. I think I played a lot of rugby, and I boxed a lot more than rugby. I was a long sort of term boxer, and I've got 2 older brothers who went in a certain direction with their life, and I went in a very different direction with mine. And I actually think sport, organised physical sport, is a good reason for that for boys. I think boys need an outlet.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we try and keep the more the boys do sorting are outside, the less time on the Xbox. So it's win.
Exactly. Yeah, and the next time they're writing about dragons chopping off people's heads. Jo, our internet connection is getting a little bit suspect. However, we've only got about 30 seconds left, so there's not enough time to talk about anything else. So before you become any more pixelated, because you are becoming very pixelated, I'm going to say thank you very much. I'm going to say good luck with the paperback launch, and hopefully we'll be all sort of out in the open again and able to actually have these things delivered to us by then. So thanks very much for joining us, and I will hopefully see you in person and unpixelated very soon.
Absolutely. Been lovely chatting with you, Tony. Thanks ever so
And
much.
you. Bye.